It's all good.
Good morning.
Yeah, what up?
Friday, May 22nd, 2026. We didn't have Freight on Friday last week,
Oh, not that one.
which was arguably the 1 week if we're ever
Yeah, no,
if we're
yeah,
ever to do Freight on Friday was last Friday.
yeah.
We didn't. Reed had a sister's wedding. I had a wedding the day afterward. So yeah, and we also don't have a Freight Gong Friday. Let's see here. I don't think next week and in 2 weeks. We don't have Freight Gong
Why?
Friday. I
Why is
won't
next
be around. Next week, well, actually,
just let me do it, dude.
all right, you could do it. Well, I guess we'll be back at.
Here's the difference between you and me. When you're gone, I'll do it, but when I'm gone, you won't do it.
I don't like doing Freight Gong Friday without you, to be honest. I have a lot more fun when we do it together. But yeah, we have 3 guests coming on as usual. We start off with Chad Olesen, the CEO of AVRL. He comes on at 8:30, so that's Central Time. Then we have Ken Adamo, Chief Strategy Officer at Ease Logistics, who we interviewed back in February while he was still at DAT, and he is no longer at DAT, and now he's at Ease Logistics. And instead of posting DAT charts on X, he posts Sonar charts on X. Who would have thought? That wasn't on my bingo card in 2026. And then we end with Austin Wallin, who is the VP of Strategy and Technology at KCH Transportation. And he's actually going to be with Reed at the Truck Parking Club headquarters in Ringgold, Georgia for that one. So I think that's the first 2, right? Where we're going to have a guest live at the
TV. Yeah. I'm probably going to I'm trying to figure out my audio situation. I might just have him sit right here and we might just use. Do I sound okay? I sound okay?
Yeah, you sound good. Yeah, you sound good.
Cool. Then I'll probably just have him sit right here and I won't fiddle with these mics or anything.
It's been actually about 2 months since we've had the studio, both of us in the studio set up. So it's been a while.
Dude, that still was the best episode, despite that one guy saying it was like made him dumber or whatever. What do you think
one we did in TPC?
You like these?
I think they fit your style very well.
It's so I've literally never lost sunglasses in my entire life until like 2 or 3 months ago, and then I've lost 3 pairs in the last 3 months.
Yeah, that's usually what happens, I feel like. But dude, honestly, there's been so much to talk about over the last few weeks, and this year in terms of freight, there's just nonstop news. Like last week with the SCOTUS ruling, and overall what's been happening, there is just nonstop, so much freight news happening. And we haven't talked in a couple of weeks. I'm gonna pull up this meme here real quick that I made today. I thought it was pretty good. So earlier this week, there was a tweet from the supply chain CEO who said, John Ferguson. Shout out to John Ferguson. He's also in Chattanooga. We got to get him on the show.
Yeah. John's a good dude.
Yeah, he said there's 80,000 loads posted and only 5,000 trucks. This was like, I believe, on Tuesday, May 19th. And I made this meme because there's, obviously on Twitter, everyone's saying there's no truck driver shortage. But when you look at those numbers, it's hard to believe that there's no truck driver shortage.
Dude, that's so funny. Yeah, John's been cooking on Twitter lately.
John's been cooking on Twitter. We could pull up John's profile in a second, but there's another guy that's been cooking on Twitter, and he's a carrier. I know he's on LinkedIn as well, but he's been cooking some really good memes. I gotta pull him up. Alan Million right here. This guy has had some really good.
Guy?
He's a carrier.
I want to say he was launching strays at Truck Parking Club during the whole Twitter drama. Like,
oh, really?
Who is this guy?
He's a carrier out of Florida, out of Miami, and I think he's also trying to build some AI. But like, I mean, I'm gonna pull up his profile. Alien Million. This is, let's see here.
Is that his name? Is Alien? Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, freight operator turned builder, Million Express on the road, and then so he's specializing in refrigerated transport. And then Luxon Labs in the lab, AI tools for trucking logistics means different. So wow, he's been on Twitter since August 2012. Okay, here's another hot take. Broker MCs should become carrier MCs. That's what the BLS says sometimes. So why not? I want to see them trying to recruit drivers that are going to work 14 hours a day, 7 days a week, up to 70 hours, 8 days. Infinite pool of willing people to do
that. Dude, I love these videos on YouTube. I want to go and do that just like to see what it's like to get smacked in the face that much.
It's probably pretty
hey,
nice.
why don't brokers provide the service to their employees? Like that guy should
maybe they will
around the sales floor like smacking people in the head.
Here, I'm gonna just pull up some comments. Sage Outcast, there is a truck driver shortage.
Let's go, Sage.
Then LinkedIn user doesn't have the name. I just saw that yesterday as well. 50,000 posts on DAT, normally 25,000. And then Sage could help with I think with the smacking of the face. I think that's what he meant, that he can help.
Great, sounds good.
All right,
dude.
I'm gonna pull up some more memes because I think he had some really good memes. But go ahead.
All right. So hold on. Just what's so. Can we what is the biggest piece of news? It's obviously the Supreme Court thing, right?
Yeah, it's the Supreme Court thing. Yeah.
So what, like, if we were just to summarize, it's like Sabine versus Montgomery, right? Or something like that.
Karib,
that's what it was. If we were to summarize it, it's essentially the allegation in the case was that this carrier should never have been hired by C.H. Robinson. Therefore, they should have never been there. Therefore, this accident should have never happened. And because it did, it's C.H. Robinson has liability, and they're like negligently hiring a bad carrier. Is essentially the idea. And like,
yeah, so this will happen. It was Karib versus Montgomery, and what was behind it? So Karib is a transportation company, trucking company that had a conditional rating that C.H. Robinson hired. C.H. Robinson hired this carrier that had a conditional safety rating. And I know that when I was first working at the brokerage I worked at, Trek Freight, that has since been acquired by Becker Logistics, this was 11 years ago, we were told that we can't work with a conditional rated MC. I mean, that was kind of the rule. Yeah. And then all of a sudden the market kind of got hot. And then it's okay, if you're going to book a conditional carrier, you got to get like a safety letter or like, you know how carriers would like write like how they're improving their safety because they got a conditional rating.
Yeah.
And it's like, now you like, if we really need a carrier, we're going to use them, but we're going to have like the safety letter. And just so it shows that we actually did some kind of due diligence. And so like they hired Karib Transport, and they ended up causing an accident. And this is against Montgomery, or they caused an accident that caused Montgomery, the guy in the car, to lose his leg.
Yeah.
And so for the last, I think this was happened in 2017. For the last 9 years, it's gone from local courts or jurisdictions up all the way up to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme, because I guess for the longest time, there's different like jurisdictions and courts. Like there's like the 7th court, the 9th court just gets split up. I don't know exactly how it's kind of like the zip codes in a way, somewhat. But yeah, and it's like it got up to the Supreme Court, and like many of the, I would say, I don't know, areas like would rule that hey, freight brokers are not liable for this. Yeah. And then the Supreme Court was like, hey, actually freight brokers are liable if they hired a carrier that's unsafe and they cause an accident. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting because right now we had it in our newsletter today, and this is something that Craig was tweeting. I'm going to pull it up right here. 1 second. So C.H. Robinson, CEO, believes that 20 to 30% of brokers could be eliminated by the SCOTUS decision. And
that's just because they like shippers. I'm just trying to understand the mechanics of why.
I'm gonna tell you why. Okay, so here I'm gonna read this. This is what from our newsletter today. Wall Street is bullish on big brokers after SCOTUS. The Supreme Court's broker liability ruling has sent transportation stocks surging, with investors betting that consolidation favors the largest players. RXO is emerging as the biggest winner according to Wall Street, with Craig Fuller noting investors are far more bullish on large logistics companies post-decision than they were before. the logic is straightforward. If 20 to 30% of smaller brokers exit the market, as CHR's CEO suggested, the freight they are removing has to go somewhere, and the well-capitalized survivors of the first line is absorb it. And that's just because I think essentially, since I didn't answer your question, Reed, was that it's going to become the playing field is going to become more difficult for brokers. So insurance prices will go up, and because of that, also it's like if there are some rulings that just say like it goes to a court case and the broker is held liable for maybe hiring an unsafe carrier, and then a settlement is in the millions of dollars, the brokerage won't be able to pay that out. They just end up closing shop. And I mean, Craig was tweeting last week saying that, goodbye chameleon carriers, hello chameleon brokers, and there's probably some truth to that. Like, I mean, it seems like, I mean, at the end of the day, like if a brokerage ends up closing because of a like, I don't know, settlement or some form of payout, they'll probably just open up another MC, right?
And so carriers have been doing. Are shippers going to be like more concerned about like what a broker's carrier selection process is? Like, are they going to be like, yo, I'm only going to go work with the big guys now because they have the best, or they have the best. One, they're the most capitalized, and two, they have the insurance, and three, they have the best vetting practices or the most airtight vetting practices, and therefore they're lower risk. Like, is that a thing? Or
I think there's some truth to that, at least some form of belief, and there's a lot of.
Are these brokers only going to exit the market because the insurance is too expensive? Like, is that the idea? I'm just, why are these brokers no longer in the market? Is my question.
I think that it's going to become more expensive to insurance costs. Like, I think the 20 to 30% number is probably going to take some time for some small brokers to exit, but I do think it's just going to be a more difficult landscape for them to operate in. Let's see here, but okay, there is a comment that we have from a LinkedIn user. I'm gonna pull it up here real quick. Yeah, as a shipper and former broker who worked for CH and FQ, I strongly prefer smaller brokers 99% of the time. And that's the thing, like they're, I don't know if like these larger brokerages are just capitalizing on this, news storm that's been happening and kind of like trying to play it like, hey, this is an advantage for them. It's hard to tell. I do believe, though, that because there's a more difficult landscape for brokerages to operate in, it's going to be more expensive to, first of all, not only insurance costs, but also it's going to be more expensive to like actually secure capacity. So the cost per load that brokers are going to be paying is going to be higher now, and because of that, I think you're going to get some smaller brokers that like.
The other question too is like, is it finally gonna, is like a carrier's safety scores like finally gonna be like a competitive advantage for them? Like, is a carrier who has like really good safety scores going to be able to command better rates than somebody who doesn't?
Totally.
And that's never really been a thing. You know what I mean? Like, if like a carrier called you and they were like, yo, I'll do it for $5,000 and your price is like $4,000, they're like, well, but I've got good safety scores. Like, that might actually mean something. You know what I mean? Because the brokers are going to have the incentive. There's going to be so many eyeballs on their vetting processes now, right? And if they don't have an airtight vetting process and they have a paper trail for every decision that was made in carrier selection, then they're going to be at risk, right? I mean, isn't that the idea? Like, if now all of a sudden, like, any billboard attorney can come after a freight broker, and if that broker doesn't have their like the paper trail and like a very solid selection plan, then like they're exposed, right? Like, isn't that how this is going to be?
Yeah, I think so.
Are any of our guests qualified to talk about this? Ken might have some opinions about it. I feel like we'll
talk to Austin about it as well. I think any large broker or any small broker is, thinking about it this week, and compliance and due diligence is going to take a lot more time.
I think it's hopefully. And people have been saying this is really good for the large carriers as well, like in the smaller operators. Like, I feel like I've seen like, Kevin Rutherford and some of the small carrier guys talking about like how this is not a good thing for small carriers. And I'm trying to understand the mechanics of that. Like, are their insurance costs going to go up? Like, what is this? Because my thought immediately is like, well, if I'm a small carrier and I have really good safety scores, then I'm like a hot commodity now. Like, wouldn't I be able to fetch higher rates versus the riskier carriers? Isn't that how it would work?
Yeah, I mean, I believe so. I believe so. And so, like, I think whatever compliance department brokers are using right now, or whatever the compliance department looks like right now, is going to become a lot more advanced and nuanced and tedious. It's like actually understanding the carrier and driver, and drivers are going to be like vetted a lot more thoroughly. And when even like last month at TIA, you just saw a lot of companies come out with driver vetting tools that didn't exist beforehand. Now it's getting to the specific driver, and it's interesting that came out like a couple of weeks before the ruling. But it seems like we're all headed towards a direction of just a lot more transparency to actually who's hauling the load. And like, I think it definitely changes the playing field, right? But at the same time, it seems like there's going to be some good things that come out of it. It might not be good overall for most brokerages because they're going to have to do more work. But when you look at the side effect or the domino effects of that, it's like, okay, now drivers and carriers are going to be a lot more thoroughly vetted before they pick up any load. That's overall good for safety, and that's going to force carriers that were maybe operating in more maybe like in a shady way to definitely level up their safety scores as well, which in turn is going to raise rates, right? Because it's like if a driver can't run 800 miles anymore because and he could only run legally 600 miles, rates will go up. It's going to force the rates to go up. At least that's the way I see it. But even like, okay, for example, in 2017 when the ELD mandate came out, everyone was thinking like, oh, rates are going to be up for good. Drivers hate this, and then all of a sudden you have all these ELD companies that are skirting the rules and allowing drivers to drive nonstop. And like, that's actually another part of our newsletter here. I could share my screen again. Was about the fact that like there's more ELDs getting removed.
Yeah.
Like I honestly am kind of shocked at the fact that you're like ELD companies were allowed to just set up and like I don't know if it was self-certify or they were able to just kind of like there's so many ELD companies that are operating outside of the US that are literally they text the drivers, Telegram like chats like between them like between the driver and the ELD company of basically just offering the driver to like clear up his log or doing whatever they need to do. And I don't know, it's like that's insane, It's like how is that even possible? I thought ELDs are supposed to like stop that.
Yeah, that's interesting. Very interesting. It's gonna be, dude. It's a very interesting world. I keep laughing in my head because 6 months ago everyone was like, yeah, there's just no way rates recover without an increase in demand, right? That anyone was saying, like, it sounded really smart to be saying that. And now all of a sudden there's like a million things that have happened that don't really have anything to do with demand, that are really just constraining supply. And it seems like rates are higher than, I don't know if they're higher than they were during COVID, but like people are calling for the market to continue going up, and it's not demand, right? It's all supply.
Shout out real quickly to Good Ship. You could download their May 2026 broker playbook in our newsletter day by going to freightcavalry.com.
Money.
And it's 7 practical strategies to strengthen shipper relationships, improve execution, and operate more strategically in today's freight market. Check it out at freightcavalry.com. Arrives freight market update. So, okay, spot rates have climbed every month since February. So look at these rates right here. $360 a mile for flatbed. So they've been going up. They've been pushing up. Van is $279. I'm kind of curious how it was last year. Like last year, it was definitely. It would be cool to see like the last 12-month charts. But yeah, so it's been climbing every month. National spot rates have climbed every month since February across all modes. And David Spencer doesn't think it's going to be coming down until July 4th. So we have that. Then spot load posts are up 42% year over year. So although it's interesting that there was fewer spot load posts in April than in March of this year.
Fewer?
Yeah, so there's 8.3% fewer spot load posts in April 2026 versus March 2026. But between April 2026 and April 2025, there's been a 42% increase.
Yeah, somebody. Okay, interesting.
Look at the sonar. Yeah, go ahead.
It's now that Ken is no longer at DET, like I feel like all I'm seeing is it's just nobody's going to be like picking apart the sonar data like Ken used to. You know what I mean? Ken's because him and Craig would always just like bicker about like who had the right data, you know.
Yeah,
and now DET is like defenseless against Craig's like onslaught on X now.
On X, oh for sure.
What do they?
Yeah,
they need somebody to get on there and fight back.
Yeah. So here, drive antenna rejections at 16.14% as road check we closed out, the highest level since 2022. So like I guess this is comparing to other years. 2025 was better than 2024, and 2024 is better than 2023, and this year it's just double essentially because it was 9 last year, 16.14. Yeah. I honestly think that the charts in sonar would be easier to read if it had a white background. I think it'd be more pleasant for the eyes. If anyone's listening from sonar,
they don't have a light mode.
I don't ever see it posted in light mode. No.
Everyone like remember when dark mode came out on the iPhone and everyone's like, oh my god, dark mode. You know what I mean? Like, I like light mode. Maybe I'm
light mode is so much easier to like actually
look at. Light mode guy. I actually let my phone change it based on the time.
Yeah, that's what I do too.
I'm a light mode appreciator.
For sure. And I think most people are. I mean, psychologically speaking, like there's just studies that show that it's a lot more easy to read like for your eyes. I think sonar like it's interesting because sonar also they came out with like a hot market map and they made the hot markets blue and the cold markets red, and I thought that was so confusing. I just didn't get it. I know Craig was kind of explaining it, but it was just like I don't know. But yeah, so that's sonar right here, and then we have the Class 8 tractor population. So Class 8 is semi trucks, and this is kind of interesting because it shows the population average age until the end of December 2028. So these are like, I guess, predictions for what's going to happen for the next 2 years. But we're at a very high. It's right now is in 2026 is very high. It's 6.5 years, and I guess it hasn't been that high since technically right here is since 2010, 2011 was when it was even higher. But so the average age of active Class 8 tractors just hit a decade high of 6.3 years. Carriers with aging equipment pull trucks off the road to avoid inspection risk, taking more capacity offline than a normal cycle would. And then the flatbed load to truck ratio. I got to pull up a meme here from Will Hopkins because he actually had a good post on this last week or this week actually. So we currently have flatbed load to truck ratios are up 124% year over year.
Wow.
Look at that. I gotta pull up Will Hopkins because Will Hopkins, who's the co-founder of Black Box Logistics, we just had our podcast with him come out last week. He, let's see here. I want to pull it up. He does a lot of flatbed and like open deck and oversize. So this is a fine meme right here.
Yeah, rates are going up. You think you quote high and they send it right over. Yeah, I'm in danger. Yeah, man. No, it's cool. It's regardless of anything, whether it's good or bad or whatever. At least something's happening. Very bullish. Nice. There we go.
Yeah. So shout out to Chain as well.
It'll be interesting. I mean, I'm curious what effect this potential kind of audit risk of brokers compliance processes, like is like our automated, like if brokers are using AI to make like automated carrier decisions, right? Whether they're using like their own custom load board or like, it's like Convoy, right? Where Convoy is like basically doing like, is this like autonomous booking? The carrier can just book it themselves. Like, are they going to be like at more risk because their like selections are made in an automated way versus, or maybe it might be at less of a risk. I have no idea. I'm just curious, like what effect that this potential liability is going to have on like autonomously booking trucks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose if a carrier is like set up and they're like above the threshold and maybe the thresholds just go up. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. I'm not sure. I'm not really sure what's going to happen. But it's cool. I just think it's.
I wonder if any like verification tools will guarantee that like this is a safe carrier. And right now, I don't think they will. But there is an opportunity. Like if
Highway one of came out with something like that.
Did they?
Highway came out with something. I think it was more about theft than like this like compliance risk. But and I could be misquoting this, so people should look it up. But I'm pretty sure they came out with a product that was essentially like, if you meet these criteria and a load gets stolen, then it's like insured. And perhaps there's a similar opportunity in this domain. But I don't know. I'm not an attorney. We need to.
Will double brokering become more popular now because of this? Will brokers just double broker the load so they don't have to be liable for it? But I guess it would, if that were to be to happen, like then they would still be connected in the chain of events, because I think shippers could be held liable as well.
That was my question. Do they have any liability if they select a broker who selects unsafe carriers? Like if a shipper is like, yo, yeah, broker, here's my freight, and they're not doing any diligence on the broker's vetting processes, like is their liability there too? I have no idea. But
good question.
It's it never ends. But nonetheless, it's an exciting time. There's a lot going on. And it's better than 3 years of everyone like complaining about the market. You know what I mean? It's good, man. It's good.
Well, now we have people complaining about the ruling. So
yeah, the common denominator is people complaining.
Yeah, I mean, 2 weeks ago we were talking about how Amazon launched their like supply chain whatever thing, and no one's talking about it anymore.
Yeah, it's
remember that consortium like of like JB Hunt and like Uber? What was that ever about?
What was that?
Like it was like for scheduling freight or something. I'm gonna try to pull it up.
Are you talking about the Blockchain and Trucking Alliance?
Scheduling Standards Consortium. I'm gonna share my screen.
I don't know, man, but if anytime there's a consortium, I'm like trying to be involved.
Mark commented, it's no longer a carrier vetting game, it's now driver verification and vetting.
Yeah, which is basically what we were saying. Yeah, man, very, very, very interesting times. I'm
gonna pull this up. Eric, just real quick. Do you remember this in JB Hunt and Uber Freight partnered in 2022?
Yeah. What do you think is going on with this? Should we try to find somebody to come on and talk about what's going on with the scheduling?
I think maybe Chad has something to say about this. Here, I'm gonna bring in Chad. 1 second.
All I know is that if there's a consortium, I'm in. That's it.
What's up, Chad?
How do you guys even find this page? Is there people still talking about this?
I just Googled it. It just came. I remembered it because we actually wrote about it in.
Don't they have a web page? There was a web page for this.
There was a web page. Yeah,
there was
a web page.
Is it gone?
I don't know. I gotta find it. 1 second.
Man, we see, Chad. Everyone else forgets, but we don't forget, bro.
It was a pretty advantageous initiative. I mean, go out and tell all your shippers how they're going to set up all their infrastructure.
Yeah,
I think that was doomed from the beginning.
What are your thoughts on this?
I mean, it's impossible. I like, it's actually like, I don't understand why anyone would have spent any time on this. I think if you have been in this space at all, the shippers write the rules and the 3PLs respond. I don't know why some 3PLs thought that they could tell shippers how they were going to follow directions for scheduling appointments. This is insane.
So it's interesting. I don't know if this is something different, but this was in the news less than a year ago, and I just came to learn that there's a full truckload council. I feel like, Reed, we should be part of that council.
Yeah.
Why aren't we part of that council? The
Who
digital
is a
standards.
part of that?
I've never heard of anyone part of it. The FTL council, LTL council. Wow.
Dude,
oh wow, look at this. Wait, Chad, this is something I feel like you should be able to talk about. The mission of the DSCC is to drive adoption of open, scalable API standards across the full truckload industry, accelerating efficiency, improving collaboration, and creating shared value for shippers, carriers, 3PLs, and tech providers.
Yeah, it'd be nice. You know, the API game is a really interesting game because it's turned out to be a money grab for even a lot of TMS providers, where if you want to set up a specific API through like an OTM, the shipper is going to charge you as a 3PL $3,500 to just set it up, which is hilarious because it shouldn't cost anything.
It shouldn't cost $3,000. Wait, that's for Oracle's system.
That's for a single connection with Oracle. Yeah. And so like I think that everyone's looking to profit off of.
It's good for the integrators, bro. The integrators, that's a great business, man. Like, oh, you want an API? Yeah, $3,000, dude.
Yeah, I mean, and some of them, I think, you know, I'm not going to name the TMS providers, but 20,000, 30,000 to connect your shippers up via API. That's wild. Like that's insane. Where's the margin? And so I think that a lot of brokers and carriers have just been like, okay, well, unless I have to get the API, I'm just not. Which the industry back, but
Chad, it's kind of crazy. This is your first time ever coming on with us, brother.
It's been a while. I mean, it took a while.
You gotta wait until we've proven ourselves, I assume. Right?
No, I was just waiting for the invite. It's fine. We've been talking a couple of times.
I just got lost in the mail, but it found its way.
We've been talking about it for a while. But Chad, can you break down for us and our audience what AVRL does?
Yeah. So AVRL is automation provider. It's a loose term for 3PLs and carriers. We automate their transactional pricing. And so I think, you know, when you look back at Uber Freight, Convoy, API pricing, dynamic quoting came into the space, and a lot of people looked at that as this like spray and pray method where there was no, you know, connection between the art and science of pricing. For a lot of 3PLs, we are their transactional pricing system that they process cost models on. And so for us, we help them automate their volume by dynamic pricing. Today, we represent about 60% of the top 100 3PLs. And I think we automate, I actually just learned this. We automate about 500,000 spot quotes a day right now.
Oh, wow.
And that's what we do. But hyper focused on if a 3PL can't define its projected cost, they really shouldn't be automating transactional volume. It's a really good way to get your ass kicked. And we really are focused around the separation of cost and margin. That's what we do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, in today's market, like especially since the market this year's been really hot, how does that adapt to the pricing at AVRL when it automates it? Can you walk us through that? Because I feel like spot rates right now are going through the roof, and it's probably pretty difficult to get the right price.
It can be difficult. I mean, what a lot of people don't realize about market data or data aggregators is that when DAT delivers you data points, a lot of 3PLs and carriers look at a high, low, and average. They don't look at all the variables that create those high, low, and averages. And in fact, the average is a company weighted average. It's not even an actual average. And so we do a ton of calculations that are proprietary on the backside to help customers understand where capacity has been trading based off of the escalation type. So is it a 3-day average? Is it a 7-day average? Is it a 14-day average? Mm-hmm. As you get out to, 14-day average, 30-day average, all those are hard to try and predict. But one of the challenges that most 3PLs and carriers never put into their dynamic pricing was capacity data. And it's insane to call something a rating engine if there's no capacity data feeding it to allow the automation to adjust automatically. For us, what we're hyper focused on is, getting them to a projected cost basis, allowing them to control margin specifically. And there are different characteristics of that, like lead time, etc. I think some of the things that are the hardest to price right now is extended lead time. And what you're seeing from shippers right now is they're, end of month, end of quarter, they're putting volume on the spot market that trades 14 days out, 20 days out. That's insane to price. Like we're telling our customers, don't price that right now. And so for us, like if it's a shorter window, yeah, it's doable. Flatbed, mess. I think that that customers are having a hard time trying to project costs, because even if you increase your cost to higher by 60%, you still might not be able to cover it.
Yeah, I mean it's exciting though, right? I mean it's does your model, like, so will your model literally tell a broker like, hey, this loads, you're trying to quote this load in 3 weeks, like we hold off, or like add a lot of, because there's like a huge temptation to just like quote everything, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's been something that everyone's been doing. Like all these automated tools are like, oh, you're only quoting 50% of the opportunities because the rest of them are lost in your inbox or something. And while that might be true, like, does it actually make sense to try to like quote every single shipment that comes your way? Like, does that even make sense anymore?
No. And in fact, like we set goals with our customers up front, like, what is our expected participation percentage or participation rate? What is our expected net negative files? Like, maybe I'm okay losing money on 15% of my orders. I better not lose any on same day freight. And really just trying to actually guide our path to automation rather than just turn it on and hope we win freight. I think, a lot of our customers at this point that are coming on, we don't want to win freight the first week. We want to look at the data, to your point. Look at, hey, are we projecting costs accurately or projecting margin accurately? If not, which ones need to be adjusted? Can we support same day freight? Okay, well, what happens if it's after 12 p.m. same day? What happens if it's a Friday pick and Monday delivery? That's technically same day freight. Like, we need to go deeper into what we can actually support. And I think that you're going to see this shift in rating where you have rate management systems connected to systems like DAT. I think those days are over. Like, you have to be able to accurately quote freight. You have to be able to accurately provide service to your shipper and execute on that, which means the rates and your cost projections need to be extremely accurate.
We talked earlier about how it, like, are we now in a world where like a carrier's and a driver's safety scores can be a factor or a variable in the rate they're able to fetch from a broker, right? Because if brokers are now all of a sudden liable for their vetting standards, like, wouldn't that mean that in safety scores actually matter now? Like, wouldn't that mean carriers with high safety scores get better rates? Like, is this like a new variable that needs to be considered in like a pricing algorithm?
Yeah, I mean, today it's not, but it is something that's probably coming down the path that they need to be thoughtful of. And I agree that safety score will probably drive a cost, and someone with a worse safety score does create a higher probability of something happening, higher risk. And so that cost needs to go up. And that's how we have a market intelligence team. And when we're working with our customers, we're trying to get them to think of pricing in terms of probability. So what is my probability of coverage? Like, maybe, from Houston to Laredo, I'm okay with 60% probability of coverage because I could take a fat margin on that load. It's just typically a lot of capacity there. But if I'm going outbound Greeley, Colorado, I probably want 100% probability of coverage on that load. And so I think, yeah, Reed, you probably will see a shift where people will start to look at probabilistic models of safety scores. Like, is there a probability that I'm going to run into risk? If so, I do need to pay you less.
Yeah. How are you looking at this ruling from SCOTUS last week, Chad, and how are you maybe like adapting right now to it? Besides this, maybe like, is there anything else that like you're thinking about because of it?
A lot of my conversations have been centered around is who continues to have brokerage, right? So if you're a Walmart and you've been talking about building a brokerage, like, does it make sense for you to do that? If you're a big managed transportation provider like a Geodis and most of your freight is on a 4PL side and your brokerage is like, 100 million and you do 10 billion a year, like, what is it really worth the risk? And so for us at AVRL, we've just been looking internally at the market to be like, okay, well, who will keep their brokerages? Who will keep doing that, and who will actually just default back to, we're Schneider, we're X billion in freight, our brokerage isn't that big. Like, does it make sense for us to keep it? That's kind of what we're looking at, and we're kind of waiting for. I am bullish on my own business, obviously, because I do think that with capacity continuing to shrink and small carriers probably being impacted by something like this, like definitely being impacted like this, that more freight will move on the spot market and rates will drive on the spot market. And so we're excited about that side, but I think it's going to be pretty chaotic, and I think it's going to be a mess for a little bit.
Mm-hmm. I think like right before you joined, Reed was talking about or asking like, why are people saying that like small brokerages are going to like shut down shop? And like we try to kind of answer this question, but it seems like you believe that smaller brokerages aren't going, or maybe even not smaller brokerages, but even like companies like Walmart or Geodis that like have either a brokerage or have thought about opening one might not think it's worth it. Why do you think that's the case?
Like, let's say that you're Geodis, I don't know how big Geodis is, so I'm just going to pull a random number. Maybe they do like 5 billion in revenue. And let's say that the top line that their brokerage does is 100 million. And, so maybe you're 4 million annually. Why would you even have the risk on your balance sheet? It just doesn't make sense. And so that's kind of what our thought process is like, at some point, it doesn't make sense if the liability is there. And there are a bunch of 4PLs that have brokerages. There are a lot of shippers that have brokerages. Like, does Pepsi really want the liability through PLCI? Or PCI? I have no idea. I'm just trying to figure out where does it make sense. I'm not necessarily concerned with the small brokerage. I think as I've talked to some of the market, some of them are like, yeah, we probably should be responsible for gross negligence. I think that definition is really not defined super well. And so what does that actually mean? For me, I'm not like as concerned on that side. I do think that the small carriers are really going to get scrutinized like crazy. And I think that there's probably more risk there for small carriers being negatively impacted.
Just because they're not going to meet the threshold.
Yeah.
And they're just going to be too risky to hire them. Even if they have good scores, like all things being equal, like you'd rather allocate freight to a larger operator than you would a smaller one. Yeah. It's interesting on your note, just on the brokerage side of things. Like, I feel like this is like a total flipping of the script, because a lot of these companies have been investing into growing their brokerage, right? And yeah, I mean, it's like it's kind of, is it just like a different world now because of this? Like, it might not make sense anymore for some of these companies. Yeah, I just think you have to look at like the profitability of a brokerage, right? If they typically run 2 to 4% NOR, like, you're gonna need a big brokerage and you're a Walmart to be able to justify the risk on it. And that's what I'm looking at there. What do you think about this? Like, earlier we were also talking about how does this affect the kind of AI companies that are doing like automated carrier procurement, right? Like, is there more risk in using these tools now than there was before, because there is going to be so much scrutiny on the vetting and selection of a carrier? Yeah, I think there's a lot of risk there. I think that I don't know how that really plays out. When I first in pricing, man, you're I am maybe. Hey, I'm actually kind of bullish on AVRL now too. Now that I'm thinking about it, it's like you guys, all you're really doing is adjusting you're just adjusting the rating algorithm based on new risk parameters now, essentially. Yeah, no, that's cool for you.
And like we fit into the piece of the carrier sales side as well. Like when you look at a brokerage, like they source capacity from the spot market almost 100%, right? And so even if it's annualized business, they still need a centralized cost system, and that's what we become. And that's what we are for our customers. When you look at, the work that Happy Robot is doing is like great work. I love their business. That was actually the business that I tried to start when I came into freight, was doing the exact same thing. No one wanted that in 2020. And I was a little probably too early on it, but that I don't know how that business or those businesses get disrupted with this. You're probably not letting it execute directly unless it's tied directly to, highways APIs or a Genlog system where it's actually doing the vetting, but you probably still need someone to do the confirmation at the back end. So it probably pulls it back a little bit further than where it was heading. I don't know. There's another big one that DAT purchased. Like, I think that this is really difficult for that business. Like, I really do believe that this is probably a blocker for that getting off the ground in the way that DAT probably wanted.
So yeah, I mean, DAT acquired Convoy for like $250 million. Was that the number?
Yeah.
Okay. And now you believe that this ruling is like, because that just automates your booking, or it's like an automated load board. I don't know what it was exactly. Something along those lines. I should know better. Sorry. Yeah. And you're saying, but like, can't you just kind of program the system to like only have like super safe carriers? So like only super safe carriers book the load.
Can assume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you could, but it'll probably lead to maybe a lower hit rate, and people might be less interested in putting their freight on it. I mean, everyone's going to be super scrutinous of like how they're selecting capacity. I mean, like especially like the agent model brokerages where you have all these kind of lone wolves out there covering freight. Like, is there going to be just a ton more scrutiny placed on those guys? Like, are they at a higher risk because they're so distributed? Like, is that a risk? Yeah, it's very interesting, man. There's a lot going on.
I think the one thing, with like a DAT that everyone's been pissed about for a long time is just even security on their load board and not allowing bad actors in there. And that hasn't been the priority for them. And so who's to say that it would be the priority for Convoy? And if you're brokering it through the Convoy platform, like, who takes liability? Is it the broker? Is it DAT? I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Going back real quick, Chad, you said that you wanted to build the business that Happy Robot is building. Yeah. Is that like from like an AI perspective, like the AI agents? Like, I know Happy Robot does a lot, but can you define that better?
So the original name of my company is Advanced Voice Research Labs, and we go by AVRL now because we don't do voice. But I was literally to automate carrier sales communication was the use case that we came into the industry for. And when I actually sat down with JB Hunt, our first customer, to tell them like, hey, this is what we want to do, they were like, hey, can you automate our transactional spot bidding? And we were like, I don't even know what that is. And then we ended up doing it, and we started working with some other larger brokers, and we kind of just pivoted the whole company into the direction of automated transactional freight. It probably wasn't even until mid 2024 when we realized, oh my gosh, a lot of these 3PLs don't even have the best pricing tooling to automate this, where we started to focus deeper on the pricing.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so JB Hunt kind of like, I guess, directed you to like automate their spot pricing. How did you get your so you got like this idea from JB Hunt, and then what were like the next steps? Like, I'm sure you're pulling it from a lot of data sources, right?
So when we look at setting up a cost model for a 3PL or a carrier, we build it to spec on our infrastructure, and sort of the infrastructure that their rating engine ends up being deployed into and configured upon. And so it really depends on how that customer like what data sets that they want to use. Like, do I want to use like a DAT? Do I want to use a Triumph? Do I want to use a Sonar OTRI data? Do I want to use X? Do I want to use Y? Do I want to use my internal data? And then we model it based off of their spec.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
So it's whatever JB Hunt was using beforehand. You just kind of configured it, and
so we work with some customers that come with their own rating engine, right? Like an Echo, we use their rating engine. Scott Friesen's brilliant, man. I love that man so much. But his team's built an amazing product, and we automate on top of that system.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. And I guess I'm curious on your thoughts of where the industry is. Like, what are you bullish on right now? I mean, are you bullish on like all this AI that's been happening, especially from like the automated carrier sales? Like, it seems like you just you just said that Happy Robot is building the business as you wanted to, but do you think that in some ways, like that relationship aspect, like can't be automated?
Yeah, I think that it's probably something that can be automated to a point, but if the whole I really do believe, and I didn't get it for the longest time, that this industry is built on relationships. And I think you can see right now in the market, when capacity is as tight as it is, like those 3PLs who have relationships with carriers and probably not getting their asses kicked as much as those who, use a single carrier for every single load. They don't use repeat carriers. And so how does that change the industry? It prevents technologies from like automated carrier sales from actually becoming what it probably should become, but it's because the relationship is so important. And I think that's the same thing with the shipper. Like I have customers that talk to their shippers every day. And I think that sometimes I'll write something, a post online where I'm like, brokers don't talk to their shippers. It's in reference to the fact that I literally have customers that talk to their shipper every single day. And so if you're a broker and you talk to your shipper, once a month or during your RFP, like that's not talking to your shipper. And so I think that relationships are key in the industry. Even in my business, automating transactional freight, you should be talking to your shipper about what you're seeing in the market. You should be talking to them about why you're not winning, where your rates are, how are you competitive, et cetera. And a lot of people don't. And so, Paul, I do believe that the relationship piece probably prevents some technology from accelerating the way that it should. But I think that's kind of the industry that we're in.
What do you think do you think that the current market conditions, bearing in mind kind of all the stuff that's happened in the last couple months, between like the language proficiency, between the non-domiciled CDLs, all these ELDs being derated, like this Supreme Court ruling, is this like a tailwind or a headwind for kind of tech adoption, AI adoption?
I'm actually not sure. I don't think that AI is being adopted the way that it was originally being marketed. Like I don't see it, at least. Like I know that people are building certain things with AI, but I don't think it's just an accelerant like they started marketing it,
Yeah, and by that, and I guess be specific, but what do you mean by that? Like you're just not seeing the end users actually leveraging these tools that are being built, or what?
Yeah, I think that I think that the AI companies are great marketers, and I think that they're marketing the hell out of their businesses and making it seem like it's everywhere. And if you walk into a 3PL, like where's the AI? I'm not seeing it. I don't see it.
Yeah, I mean, dude, on like
wasn't at that point you don't see the AI's doing behind the scenes business. You don't see the AI. But like I mean, I talked to a carrier dispatcher last week who was telling me that there was this one brokerage. I think they're like a top 20, top 30 brokerage, and they've been using AI a lot. And he was saying that he really he's been working with them for years, and he was telling me how he actually hates the fact that like they just started automating all of their call-ins and stuff. So when you call in, it's an AI, and it drives them crazy. And so like there's obviously that relationship is missing, and it's like you get to a point where dispatchers that have been working with your company for years are now being, kind of annoyed or in some ways like want to work with you less because of the fact that you're just using a lot of AI. And now when the tide is turning and now it's a carrier market, all of a sudden all the brokers that have been maybe automating too many things are going to realize like, hey, maybe we should actually have a human pickup so that we don't like lose that truck.
I mean, Paul, to like one of the customers that you work with a lot, like Chain.io, right? Like they're doing a great thing. It's human in the loop. It's
Try
literally
chain.com.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
There's two of them. There's two of them.
Sorry. Chain.com. Yeah. Chain.com. Like
try chain.com. Yeah.
chain.com.
But yeah.
Yeah. Like that's their business is full human in the loop. And I think that they're probably seeing a lot more success because it's not this AI agent taking over and it's a connection point there.
Yeah.
I think like business like that one, they're gaining traction. I've talked to their customers love that product.
Yeah.
I go into like a automated carrier solutions that's voice driven. If there's no cost model, if the 3PL doesn't know their projected cost, they literally can't automate that. It has to go through a carrier sales team 100% because you're going to just use DAT average as your centralized cost point. So any margin that you were going to make just given right back out the door, it doesn't work. And so this big reason why my team's actually even focused on trying to define cost to hire. Like what is a true cost to hire? What is our projected cost to hire in the market? We have customers that are using us with Happy Robot tied into the backside to drive. We're the cost model that we're reading from so that they can negotiate. But I just don't see this. I don't see a lot of the AI at scale that was probably promised to the industry. I'm not seeing it.
Sure. Yeah, I agree. Chad, I have to ask you, what does the Chad freight stack for 2026 look like?
Oh, geez. I have no idea. That's a really difficult question.
Well, you got to be using AVRL for your pricing engine, and what, like Google Docs or something?
Happy Robot. Chain.
No, I obviously love what Genlogs is doing. I think that they're doing like really great things. I do like Chain. I think that they're doing really great things. Obviously, I'm excited about my own business. I'm trying to think of other like you should already have Highway, right? Like there are some staples that you probably should already have. But I haven't seen anything new that I'm like really excited about. That's like extremely transformative. I don't know.
Okay. Are you bullish for 2026 and beyond?
I have no idea what's going to happen. I'm bullish on it for certain businesses. I think if you run a good brokerage that has a good balance sheet, I'm bullish on you. If you don't have a good balance sheet, it's probably going to be hard, because what I do think that is going to come is that I do believe that shippers are going to start requesting financials from 3PLs. And I know that that's happened in the past, like sporadically, but I do think it's going to be something that's going to come in a full force. So, and I don't know how a private company who doesn't want to expose their financials handles that unless they're extremely large.
Got it. Last question, Chad. We'll give you the question from Josh. Josh is saying pricing freight is not rocket science. Why do we make it this way?
I think that pricing freight is more complicated than people expect. I think that why people think that it's not rocket science is because they price, a couple of loads. Like if you priced 500,000 loads a day, you probably need some rocket science behind it. You're not just going to be throwing rates out there.
I miss the
Josh,
days.
you're not pricing enough freight is essentially what Chad's saying. Josh is like pricing like 5 loads a day.
Josh is just touching strays. Yeah, what's your volume, bro? What's your balance sheet look like, Josh? Come on, brother. Open source that shit. Transparency.
No, I think I do want to add something. I think that most people in freight, like when they're pricing freight, they don't know what a coefficient of variation is. They don't know what a standard deviation is. And therefore, there's no way that they can use DAT's product the way that it's designed. And so a lot of people say like, oh, DAT's rates suck. And unfortunately, most of the brokerages and carriers probably don't know how to price using a data aggregator, and that's a failure on DAT big time for not training their customers.
I miss the day when you could just roll your face on the keyboard.
Ken on right now.
When back in the day, dude, you used to be able to roll your face on the keyboard and say, and then the shipper would be like, "All right, sending it over," you know. And now you need all these algorithms and robots and shit. Like, what the hell's going on, man?
Brokers don't know standard deviation is what I heard, and I just appeared. It's like the bat signal. It's like
I'll be honest. I know what a standard deviation is, kind of. But hey, if there was a test right now, I'm not sure I could properly define it. I think I might fail.
I think I was listening behind and before I joined. I think Chad's right. The thing that the most unused piece of data in the industry is what helps you know whether the rate's good or not.
Yeah.
Because like and again, it's a politically incorrect analogy, but like I don't know. It's like going hunting for bear and you don't know if there's one in the chamber. Man, it's like I don't know. It's tough. It's tough to not know if that rate's good or not.
Well, now that you're a broker, how are you going to do that at your brokerage, Dan?
Start with standard deviation and subscribe to AVRL. I mean, for real.
No, I think Ken has a path that he's going down. We are part of his path, and I'm excited to work with Ken. I think that Ken is brilliant. I think that Ken does understand the art and the science, and I think that's one of the things that brokers talk about all the time is that, you know, there's science and there's art to this. The science is the math part of it, and then there is an art to it, and that's understanding how you price based off of unique characteristics of freight.
It's so I guess my takeaway from your time on the show, Chad, is that if you're a freight brokerage and you do not have rocket scientists on the payroll, you are exposed.
I don't think that that's the case. If you don't have someone who knows SQL on your balance sheet, then you're probably exposed. I mean, I think that one of the things that brokers have probably not focused on is the data and analytics side. And I do believe that that is going to be an extremely important piece in the future. It should be a really important piece today.
Well, I agree. I think there's two classes they should add to the American high school curriculum. It's how to do your taxes and how to write SQL. Honestly, I think it's the new modern currency is to be able to access information faster than others, for sure.
Dude, I know enough SQL to be dangerous. Drop table from database, dude. Everyone go write that right now.
I don't know much about any of this, but Chad, I don't know if you have to run or not, but if you want to stay on, we could definitely have us four here.
I'm gonna let Ken take this. I talked to him too much already as it is daily, I think. No, I have to get to another meeting that I'm 4 minutes late for, but I do appreciate everybody.
See you, Chad.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us, Chad. I'll be soon.
Take care.
Thank y'all.
Yeah. Ken.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning, Ken. So you were on the show back, I think, in February, so 3 months ago, and you were still at DAT. And now we, obviously know that you're at Ease Logistics. You're back at a brokerage. Tell us, what's going on?
I mean, I picked a hell of a time to join, didn't I, boys?
It's starting to look like you had this all planned out, dude. Like it's starting to make a lot more sense to me, honestly. Like there's
a conspiracy theory out there about this.
Have you wanted to go to a brokerage, like, or how have you thought about this?
I mean, I said this in my post, which was really cheesy when I kind of announced where I was going, and like I wanted to get back to building. I really don't think I'd have been happy at a brokerage that had it all figured out. Like I think if you look at Echo, Scott Friesen over there is one of the best in the entire business. They're well down their path. They're who I look up to, right? Who I aspire to be at Ease is what they've built over there. And I can list a bunch of them, but fine-tuning knobs and dials isn't what I was kind of game for. I'm not implying that he doesn't have a great roadmap and like he doesn't have things to go build, but for me, I kind of wanted to go back to what it felt like the day I walked through the doors at DAT and we had just a rate view app in power, right? Like that's what the analytics business was in December 2019 when I joined. And when I left, it was I don't know, very large powerhouse in the industry with API connectivity and plugins and customers all across the corners of the industry. So I just wanted to go build is the short answer.
Mm-hmm. So who did you bring up from Echo? Scott? What was his last name? Sorry.
Scott Friesen. I don't know his exact title, but he's basically the head of data science, analytics, and pricing at Echo. And we've been. Go ahead.
You're muted. You're muted somehow, Paul. Did you mute your mic? Red now.
Sorry. So Chad brought him up as well during
really?
our interview, and I've never heard of Scott before, by the way. So like,
you should have him on.
Yeah.
He's so we started going. There's this event that DAT has, and it just happened. It's the first. I've only missed it due to having kids and apparently not changing jobs. So I've went probably 8 to 10 times over the last over the last decade. And it's always in like premier golf destinations. It was down in Streamsong, but we've been to Torrey Pines. I've went to Pinehurst, you name it. But it's basically when all of like top folks from the top brokerages come together and talk about things in the industry, and it's hosted by DAT. And so I met Scott there as basically junior pricing person at FedEx when I was still there, along with others like Colin Wright over at Echo, if you're familiar with. Or just a long list of people who attend regularly, and kind of just followed his career. And as my careers went along, like I said, I just think the way he thinks about problems is the way I kind of naturally lend myself to thinking about problems. It's a deep sense of creativity. It's not like there's a lot of people who approach analytics in like an overly structured way, or it's like if I put this much input in, I'll get this much output out. And I don't. I think Scott. You guys know David Spencer, right? Down at Arrive.
Yeah,
so David's another one of those like OG DAT Symposium crew. And so we've all kind of been checking in with each other over the years. And he's like another person I think very highly of that kind of thinks about the problem in a different way. So I would recommend if you're looking for a guest, just talk about analytics. Scott's like the analyst's analyst. Like he got sick. I'll let him tell the story. But basically, as he was in treatment for something he was dealing with, he was like thinking how to use analytics to make the treatment schedules better. That's like how he thinks about problems, which is just something I deeply admire.
We should get a panel with
Echo for a long time. Like I think he was there when I was there. I remember his name. I don't think I've met him before though.
Yeah.
Reed, we should do a panel with Scott, David, and Ken on it.
That would be fun. And that would be really fun.
The Big Brain Council. That's what
the Big Brain, BBC.
Yeah. And so you said you want to take what Scott's done and model it at Ease. Can you kind of elaborate a little bit more on that? I mean, I kind of understand it, but like, so, and you also said that you didn't want to walk into a brokerage that has everything figured out. So I'm kind of curious, like, what are your kind of goals right now at Ease? If you could speak about them a little bit.
I think the answer to that question. Yeah, the answer to that question is the answer I'll give you ties into all of those. I think the single most important thing a broker can do to improve performance across the line is to understand what it's going to cost them to buy a truck. I don't know if you asked Chad or if he told you that. I think we're in like violent.
Exactly what he said.
Yeah, I'm in violent agreement with Chad on that subject. If you don't know what it's going to cost you to buy the truck, everything else. So it's basically like it's the butterfly effect. The degree to which you have error in that process is the degree to which you're going to have compounded error throughout your entire business.
Does that cost include like the actual manpower and the technology? No. So just the cost of the
cost to buy the truck.
Yeah. Okay.
Now I think this is what I mean by it cascades, because if I if I am able to buy the truck cheaper, like the person power, please, dude, it's 2026. The person power to move that load and do the billing and do the dispatch, if I can get that lower, I can cost lower because I don't need as high of a gross profit and I can win more freight. So, but if you don't know what it's going to cost you to buy the truck, you're really, now that I'm a broker, I can like be a little bit, you're just pissing in the wind. I mean, like there's brokerages out there that have error rates in the 30-40% range of what they think they're going to buy the truck for and what they actually buy the truck for. So why are you spending 5 hours in a room debating an RFP on whether we should put 10 or 12% gross margin on it when you can cover that for plus or minus 20% of your expected buy cost? So I think it's critically important.
One thing to kind of transition a bit, you said like you wanted to go to a place that like didn't have it all figured out. But I mean, to what extent does anyone have it figured out now in light of kind of like the fundamental changes to like what like the exposure that brokers have, right? Like, I don't know what your opinion on this whole Supreme Court thing is, but like, isn't everyone going to kind of have to go back to the drawing board on how they're vetting carriers, what their risk is, like yada yada yada? Or are the brokers that are dialed in like with compliance it's gonna be business as usual for them?
That's a loaded question. I would tell you, like, one of the things I picked up while I was at DAT working with all these brokers is like just a deep sense of admiration for what each of them does really, really well. And I would tell you, like, as example, C.H. Robinson, like, they're equipped. I know it's kind of an easy answer because they were the person involved, like the company involved in the suit. But like Mark Albrecht and Tim Gagnon over there, like Cody Griggs, like they have this stuff figured out. Like they might not know the answer to this particular question, but they've built like a mechanism, an apparatus, if you will, in place to figure these problems out with speed and accuracy and expediency. And like they've got hundreds of data scientists and pricing people, and they're thinking about like, what I said when I answered that question was they're thinking about things that are so far down the path of what I'm thinking about how to deliver an accurate cost quote to a floor broker at ease. That's what I've been thinking about every day the last 2 weeks, every single day. They're thinking about how do I reduce the error in my Western Canadian cross-border lanes. Like, so there's a difference, and they're doing it like in Navisphere, right? You're getting, and again, I'm not saying this from inside information I have, it's just like from what I know from the industry. Like you're getting personalized quotes based on your carrier, and like your scorecard as a carrier can lead to like more lucrative or less lucrative quoting. So like they've really got things figured out. And I think they would be the first to tell you that they're not done. They don't think that they have it figured out. But like when you step back and you're like, Ease is a top, this year will be a top 50 broker, from hopefully even higher. And we've got a long road to go to get there.
Mm-hmm. Paul, I don't know if you have a response to that. If you do, ask it.
I was just kind of curious because, delivering the right price for the broker on the floor is a difficult job, especially in today's market, right? Like it's. And by the way, you keep going in and out, Ken. I'm not sure.
Am I flickering?
You're flickering.
Okay,
yeah.
Keep talking. I'll try to figure it out.
Yeah, but like I'm kind of like you joined 2 weeks ago at Ease, and then the SCOTUS ruling was last week. And so was road check week. And so I'm kind of just, I guess, keen on understanding, like, this is a difficult task that you're kind of set with right now. And it seems like AVRL is one of your partners that you work with, and you talk to Chad a lot to kind of solve this. But like, I'm kind of curious, like, what your day-to-day looks like now, and what, like, because you're a data scientist, what exactly, like, are you doing? Like, can you walk us through that?
What is your job?
In like a simple form? Like, no, I mean, I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like,
so,
walk us through it.
I think the most clowned on job role in brokerage is the chief strategy officer. And I kind of hit that head on in the kind of my announcement to coming here. I didn't want like I think Andrew Silver, when I did his podcast, said it best. It's like when someone wants to hire someone big and they don't have a job for them, they hire a chief strategy officer. That's not what I wanted. So I think that respect comes from showing you can do it, right? Like when Peter and I sat down and crafted this job, it really is leading product. Like, so chief product officer is not an in vogue title in brokerage. Like, if you look at like Robinson, when Arun came from Chewy, he was chief product officer, and that quickly got shuffled around to being chief strategy and innovation officer. So I think there needs to be the reason I think that happens is the operational tie back. So I wanted to be deeply ingrained in ops, deeply ingrained in pricing, and kind of the product and tech. So those are the teams that I'm leading, would be pricing and product and tech, and then just having like a deep commercial tie-in to how we think about operations. So let me go through the last 3 weeks. Probably 8 hours a day, I've been dealing with fires, like angry shippers, desperate shippers, very stressed ops folks, and then kind of playing the liaison. Pricing, if you've ever worked in pricing in any industry, is a very like thankless job. I don't think they're looking for, you have to hire people who like don't get motivated by pats on the back, because when you lose business, the salespeople yell at you because you quoted too high. When you win business, the ops people yell at you because you quoted too low. So basically being that bridge between ops and sales is where pricing sits, and it's a tough spot to be. But I love it. Like these last 3 weeks have flown by. I've lost more hair, which is why I'm wearing a hat. I get the Zen thing, that why it's not actually a joke and is a real thing. But like a day-to-day for me is that, and then like trying to wrangle product and tech. Like, in my opinion, the biggest failure in brokerage tech is when the people building the tech don't understand the operation. Like, and I've got to tip my hat, and this isn't just based on my former employer. Like, we've been given Convoy a go, and I've actually been impressed. I mean, I helped, I wrote the thesis to buy the business at DAT. Like, even I'm impressed that a lot of that was actually true, because we are seeing like it work for us in our business.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. It's good to hear, because Chad was kind of saying that he's worried about the Convoy platform now because of the SCOTUS ruling.
Here's a good question.
Yeah, so Convoy and SCOTUS, not my. I got a very nice legalese note from my former employer, which I thought was well done about how they think about it. But again, I think Convoy's carrier vetting is strong. I would be much more worried about like the unwashed masses that aggregate in load boards as it pertains to Montgomery. To Mr. Upside Down Supply Chain CEO, I mean, there's a couple technical answers to that question, which I'm not going to like say publicly, but I need to reduce our actual versus expected model cost error in our cost. I said it at the top of the show. That's front of mind for me. Ease has built, I'm not just saying this because I work here. They've built a really like badass, we call it AMI, AMMI. And they spent the last year building out essentially like a mid operations layer that sits between the TMS and the end user. And like, I'm telling you, 3 weeks in, I'm able to know more about what's happening in our business than I did a year into FedEx. And we both ran the cloud. So I think it's like really moving that down the field. Anytime you move that fast, you create a lot of tech debt, and it's really boring. None of your audience wants to hear about tech debt, but we're going to have to pay down some tech debt for certain. And then growing the business. I mean, I'm a firm believer that at the executive level, everyone's a salesperson, everyone's an operator. Like, you got to be out there talking to your customers. You got to be selling your butt off. You got to be internally and externally. So, I mean, it's no mystery. I don't know if we said it on the Silver podcast or not. Like, within 3 years, we're going to get ease to $1 billion and then figure out how to even go high like that. Like, because you guys have been in this business. There's strata of brokerages. It's like, it's tough to get to $500 million. That next like mezzanine is like $700 to $800 million. And that's when you're really starting to like push the limits of off the shelf software. And you have to be a lot more deliberate about spot contract balance. And then once you get to $1 billion, a lot of doors open up on where you can go next. So that's like my Pete and I's big, hairy, audacious goal is to let's get this thing to $1 billion and then figure out what's next from there.
Yeah. I have a couple of follow-up questions here. So, well, maybe some of them are more like a statement. So like, you spent the last few months at DAT on the shipper side. So you spoke to a lot of shippers. And so you kind of, I guess you got accustomed to having talks with them, even though it was, I guess, different conversations then, but it's also, I guess, valuable experience for you now. And I know we've interviewed David Spencer before, and like, he was telling us about how like he spends a lot of time talking to shippers and their customers that arrive, because it's obviously very valuable to get updates from them, understand the market. So a couple questions, or actually maybe one question. Are we going to be seeing a freight market update like every month, like we see it arrive from Ease Logistics now?
We're going to, yeah. It's just like I said, 3 weeks in, I've had a little. I got Tums on subscribe and save. Like it's been. These have been very challenging 3 weeks, but yeah, we're going to get there. Like we're looking at staffing. I don't want to be like a copycat. I think Ease does a great job. Robinson has their IQ report. Echo has their report. I mean, I'm just all the top ones do. I kind of want to do something different with it. I don't want to spill the beans, but certainly once it's released, I'd love to come here and talk about it. But I've always prided myself, right, wrong, or indifferent, and like thinking about the market in a little bit of a different way. I think it's like, because I think Craig Fuller does that too, and that's why we would butt heads at times, because we look at things very differently. But that's kind of how I think about what I want. So Ease is very auto-centric. So I think we just released an auto index. Our founder is, not just because he's my boss, but like probably the best in the entire industry at thinking about brokerage and warehousing for the auto supplier industry. So I think like you're going to see a little bit of a different flavor, probably some Buckeye references, got to squeeze that in there.
Sure. And then, I mean, I have to ask, because you've been posting sonar charts lately. So are you a sonar customer at Ease, or?
We're not a customer yet. I was a customer. Their head of sales. I don't know if he's a CRO or what his official title is, but Brad Kinane was my sales rep at FedEx. So I was a sonar customer before I came to DAT. And yeah, I mean, we're kicking the tires. I think there's 3 things I want to use data for. One is like thinking about the market. I hate business books, by the way, so I'll offer this with that context. But if I ever like retire and I write a business book, it's going to be about like, how do you build intuition in your business? Like, it's the one thing I've always tried to be disciplined about and try to coach my teams is like every day that I worked at DAT, every day, whether I was on PTO or not, if I had an internet connection, I'd log in and see what happened in the network yesterday. What were rates doing? Like what big news was happening in the industry? And when you do that, you kind of build this muscle in your brain where when something's off, you can spot it a lot faster. And you don't have to spend all this time figuring out what's wrong. You just know something's wrong and I have to go kind of fix it. Any pricing person who's done that job for a length of time can tell you when something's off with a bid or when something's off with an award. So I think a lot of this is just about like building intuition around data. And then like you get into like the second and third trunk, which is like the rote data modeling and like maybe OTRI. The first text I sent Craig was, "It's time to find out if sonar's as bad as I've been telling people the last 7 years." like it's, and again, I think like one thing that I tried to do at DAT and I failed was like, it's really hard as a customer to post the stuff you see me, Dean, and Caplis and others posting about. We hand roll a lot of that ourselves. Yeah. And so Sonar makes it easy to be like, I wonder what national rates are doing. Go in, it looks pretty. I don't have to format it, and I can just look at it, understand it, and ship it.
So is Sonar as bad as you thought it was?
I don't know yet. I mean, first of all, behind the scenes, Craig and I, there was always an enormous amount of mutual respect and a lot of fun that happened behind the scenes of a lot of those battles. But I don't know yet. I think the best model is probably going to be an amalgamation of multiple sources in the industry, because I don't think DAT is, I think, the best. I think Craig would be the first to tell you that like there's not a top 200 broker that isn't using DAT as their primary data source for pricing. If they are, they're not going to be a broker. Like they're just, trust me. But like, is a broker that's using DAT plus Sonar plus, I don't know, gen logs, real-time capacity data, are they able to like gain an edge over a broker that isn't? Like that's what I don't. There's this concept in modeling of like feature engineering and champion challenger models, like always trying to figure out what's the best prediction now. And so that's what I'm kind of thinking about probably over the next 3 quarters here.
What's the Ken freight tech stack for 2026 look like?
For 2026, probably not a lot of upheaval. I think, truthfully, Genlogs is the most interesting business in our entire space right now. I think Ryan is ultra smart. I think what he's built is fascinating. And I'm interested. I'm just giddy. Like I thought like 3 weeks ago, I'd be able to like talk to all my contacts on the side of the industry and start playing with all this freight tech. Little did I realize that like Road Check Week and then the Supreme Court was going to dunk on our entire industry. So I'm looking forward to like really evaluating that. I think like what Good Ship has obviously made a pivot to brokerage. That's going to be something interesting. But I think we're pretty well set up, right? I think our TMS is pretty well dialed. Our team, I've given them small but mighty. Like our data engineering team, if you're familiar with like back-end systems, like our gold layer or our semantic layer, the way you can like a human can get at the McLeod data without having to know the 9 million joins, they've built something just outstanding. So I'm talking like 3 weeks in, I'm able to say, hey, here's all the orders we've moved on Convoy last week. Here was the gross profit, and I don't have to ask anyone. So I think our tech stack as it stands right now is pretty well dialed, but obviously looking to bring in things that help us.
Sure.
Yeah, I guess. Well, here's your question. There, this is the most important question of the show. Are you a Zen user yet, or no?
No, I have a very addictive personality, so I don't gamble. I only drink on weekends.
What is your vice?
I mean, I would be lying if I said I'm like addicted to, I have an unhealthy relationship with like food. So I'm an Italian at heart. Like I could sit down at 9 a.m. and have a plate of spaghetti and meatballs. But caffeine is my most unhealthy like substance. I will probably consume in an average day.
We got to ratchet up these vices, brother. Spaghetti and caffeine are not good vices. All right.
You're a freight broker now, Ken.
I'm a married guy with 4 kids, and I've like been dating my wife since high school. So I don't have
doesn't matter.
I don't have, and I live in like a farm field in Ohio.
For your children, bro. What's life without vices, right?
Yeah, we have some vices, but I don't know if you heard, but Costco came out with a Kirkland Celsius knockoff. It tastes just like it, and I've been like ripping through those things.
All right, well, Kirkland Celsius. What, dude? So what? I mean, what are you seeing in the market? Like, obviously, you have a different perspective now on the market, right? At DAT, you were just looking at the numbers and the transactions, but now you're kind of like zoned in. Like, what do you see going on right now?
Pain. Just pain. Everyone. It is like, I don't know. I think there's this misconception that like wholesale across the board carriers are happy because rates are high. They're not, because they're getting just annihilated on fuel. Like, look, are they in a better spot than they were last year? Yes. But like, I don't know. It's like the Montgomery thing. Did Robinson want to lose that case? No. But do they stand to benefit in a post-decision world? Yes. So are carriers happy rates are up considerably? Yes. Do they still wish they weren't paying $6 a gallon for diesel in Ohio? It's like also yes. So carriers, pain, but not as much pain. Probably the least amount of pain right now is carriers, especially like large carriers that are on fuel surcharge programs. Brokers, I don't understand this. Like, I wish I wasn't right. Like, all of the quabbles I got in with some of like the broskies on FreightX about like contract rates, I wish I was wrong back then at DAT, because they haven't budged. Like, they haven't budged an inch. Like, Fuller would tell you that, DAT would tell you that, I'm telling you that. These contract rates aren't budging, and spot rates are just like through the freaking moon. So spot freight looks great right now. If you have a contract that's even 20 minutes old, you are just getting destroyed. Mm-hmm. And it's all about balance, right? Like, ease is a service first brokerage. We only select ultra high quality carriers, 2-year minimum age of authority. Because again, like, we're hauling around a lot of like auto freight, and you don't mess with the automakers. Like, you make one mistake, you could be locked out for a month. I mean, anyone who's moved freight for the big three or anyone like that knows the scorecarding. But it's tough, because I think, again, there's the sensationalism a little bit of all these carriers are gone, and like now they're forced to hire. The problem becomes like people who were hiring top quality carriers just got a lot more competition for those top quality carriers, a lot more competition, and they know it. So it's going to be, I think, bumpy. I maintain 2027 will probably be the best year in modern history for brokers.
What
for
on
brokers.
You just hinted at something that we've talked about, which is,
wait,
we'll get to that 2027 thing in a second. Real quick. Why is there going to be, there is more competition for the top carriers, and the top carrier criteria is what? Safety, performance. Like, are carriers going to be able to fetch a premium on rates because of their safety scores?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And so that's not really ever been the case, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, it depends, right? So I think like if you went and did like a big study on this, I do think you'd find that safer carriers on average made above market rates. I think that's going to come. You're going to see like this distribution to kind of go from like probably more of a bell curve to like what we would call like bimodal. I think you're going to see like two splits in the carrier population. I think you're going to have like questionable carriers or carriers that you have questions about, and then ones that you have pretty reasonable certainty are high quality. And I think that right-hand side is going to become extremely valuable until the ones that are questioned. I said this yesterday on a different show, and I think it's something for us all to think about. For the entirety of carrier vetting, we looked at signs that a carrier was unsafe. Signs and signals. It's what highway does. It's what they all do. What I think this ruling is going to have to change is we're going to have to start figuring out ways to manufacture signals that a carrier is safe, not unsafe. Mm-hmm. And I think there's multiple ways to do that. Like if you look at the financial, like stockbrokers, they go through, they're all part of FINRA. Like, will the TIA, if the TIA could kind of like remove their head from a certain dark place, they could maybe think about forming an SRO to like codify what, like set a standard for what vetting should be, and then anyone who's a member of the TIA has to be compliant with that standard. So therefore you have thousands of brokers. You know what I mean? You start to add critical mass and you can walk into court and go, hey, I was following a process that is TIA certified to be the standard.
Chris, if you're listening, let's go, dude. What are you doing?
I love Chris. I love the TIA, but I think this is an issue where I think like just squawking about it and like lamenting that it happened isn't going to actually like fix the problem.
All right, you got 30 seconds here, Ken. Tell us about 2027. What are you bullish about, Paul? Is that what you want to ask?
Well, Ken literally just said that 2027 is going to be the best year for freight brokerage ever. I'm not sure if you
modern history. Let's call it modern history. So what are we comparing against? 2022 is the high watermark now, right? COVID rates came down, volumes were still up. Like everyone was making 15, not 40%. Let's not get Mac riled up. Everyone's making 15 to 17% on just really great volumes. So what's going to happen is everyone's going to lock in contracts this year and do reprices at these astronomical rates. The industry is going to figure out how to vet and move forward with carriers. Capacity is going to overinvest. It's happened every single cycle since 1980. It's going to happen. I promise you. There's still going to be drivers with funny last names. Shocker, I know. And the market's going to kind of come back down some point in 2027. Maybe not like it crashed at the end of COVID, but it's going to ebb back. We're going to see volume. We're going to see interest rates come down. Imagine this market with volume. I don't want to take more than 30 seconds, but imagine if Trump appointed Mickey Mouse to run the Federal Reserve and they lowered interest rates to 2%. Like it would be unbelievable. And I think that's not going to happen in 2027, but I do think maybe this is wishful thinking. Call me out on X. I don't know. But if rates can maintain their levels this year and we get all of our contract movement in the second half of this year, based on where I think spot rates will have to come back a little bit next year, it should be all three legs of the stool for a brokerage moving in the right direction: rates, volumes, and margins.
All right. So you're bullish.
I'm bullish.
All right. Screen grab here. Give me a thumbs up, Ken.
Are you very bullish, Ken?
Not this year. I think this year's tough. Pain, find me a time in brokerage where it's been back-to-back years of awesomeness. It's almost always like low margin, low volume pain, high volume, low margin pain, and then high volume, high margin excitement. Like that's kind of the cycle. And so if you think about 19 sucked, 20 grin and bear it, 21 was good, 2022 was freaking awesome, 23, 24, and 25 sucked. So
question from Ryan here. Won't the capacity investment take more time than that?
I don't know. I'm not bullish that we're not going to see an influx of subpar carriers to meet the need of these current high market rates. I don't think the FMCSA has the resources, and we're coming up on a mid-year election cycle. I just don't think we have permanence in these policies. I mean, what if the Republicans lose all support in Congress prior to Delilah's law getting passed and all of that, and then Duffy moves on, and then we kind of go back to this revolving door at the FMCSA and walks back all of this?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's going to happen, but would either of you two be surprised if any one of those things happen?
No.
Do you think General Mills is going to be happy with paying $5 a mile for contract rates because they can't hire a carrier that came from Uzbekistan?
No.
So, I think if you believe that this current regime stays in place, then the capacity investment might take longer. But look at new truck orders. The capacity is coming, baby. And it's going to be on the roads and someone's got to drive it.
All right. Well, Ken's bullish, and we'll end on that note. We'll have you
bullish
back
for 2027.
Yeah. All right. Bullish for 2027. We'll make sure that's included. All right, bro. We'll see you soon.
We'll see you. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks
Later.
for joining us.
Austin, get over here, brother. All
All
right.
right.
We're gonna adjust our set real quick. Austin, slide
Austin's
in.
live at the Truck Parking Club headquarters in Ringgold,
Yeah.
Georgia.
What's up, dude?
What's up?
What's up, Austin?
How are you,
Good
Paul?
morning. Pretty good. Pretty good.
We're good like this. All right, we're cooking. Can you hear us okay?
Yeah.
All right, great.
Actually, I'm gonna change that here. real quick.
So introduce yourself.
Austin Wallin, currently VP of Strategy and Technology at KCH Transportation.
Nice. And you guys are a freight broker.
Yeah, freight broker, somewhere around the 300 million mark. Been in business for, we had assets well before I was here. And I think somewhere in 2012, the company was started. Founder's father owned trucks, and then he then founded the brokerage side. It sort of grew from there, and then really got their wind somewhere around COVID, and then sort of exploded. So I came in a little over 3 years ago, January of 23, to do a migration from McLeod to Revanova. They at that point we were hiring like crazy, growing, adding new offices, things like that. And then since then, obviously, as Ken was just mentioning, hit 3 bad years. But we've been grinding through them, and the future looks awesome.
Future looks awesome. What, Paul? You with us? You good?
I'm here. I'm just trying to change Austin. Put Austin's name, and I put.
There we go.
So okay, Austin. There we go. So
all right,
you're on the screen. So Austin, we got to see each other last month a couple times. We were in Kansas City. We were in Chattanooga. And I remember I visited KCH a few years ago because KCH was acquired by private equity, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Okay, so this
Not
was
really private equity, but a private ownership.
Private ownership, and before that, KCH actually had assets.
They did. Yeah.
Yeah, and you remember you were telling me in Kansas City about your story, and you come from a family that had a trucking company.
That's correct. Yeah.
In Georgia.
Yes. Yeah, my grandfather really started out hauling watermelons from Cordell, Georgia, and sell them at the farmers market in Chattanooga. Then evolved that into a trucking company. Everybody in my family is driven or, still drives, most of them. Owned trucks. They got into some refrigerated, van. A lot of the companies here locally, flooring, carpet capital of the world, Dalton, Georgia. So a lot of flooring going outbound, and then they'd bring produce back into the Atlanta market. So did that for a long time. My grandfather did. He ended up moving to South Carolina later in life when they built the new Walmart distribution center over in Gray Court, and set up shop over there. At that point, that was kind of when my dad started doing his own thing, and my uncle started doing their own things. They sort of went all these different paths, a lot of reefer freight and stuff like that. And then, years later, I go to college, go to work for Shaw Industries in the supply chain side. And I think that was one of the most monumental parts of my career is they not only, taught me a lot, but they exposed me to areas I don't think most people get exposed to. So I was a part of this new thing. It was like the OMT program, but they put a supply chain apprenticeship aspect to it. And so I spent time in all the departments. So I spent time in production planning, procurement, technology side, operations side. So really the full gambit of everything. And I think that's what helps me tie a lot of things together is understanding everything from distribution to production planning, procurement, working with procurement reps and working with vendors directly for ordering cardboard or whatever it may be. From there, I was recruited. I kind of had this really big project where we launched a warehouse management software, and it just killed. Like it pushed us through the roof with throughput at that facility. Got recruited by Amazon Logistics at the time. They were launching their final mile, so I was pretty early on there. We launched 78, I think, delivery stations during my time there. If you look at my LinkedIn, it looks like a short period of time. It was 14 months, but when you're working 80 plus hours a week, it doesn't feel like a short period of time. average tenure at that time was like 8 months. So I feel like I almost made it double as long as everybody, you know. So traveled all across North America for that. It was great. Honestly, we wouldn't have been having our first child. I would have stuck it out. Just a crazy job that was so rewarding. Came home, ran a John Deere dealership for a while, several years, started a trucking company, ran end dumps. I was selling commodities to feed companies and things like that. Trump put some tariffs on ethanol, killed that for me. So I wasn't able to buy it because there wasn't any, the byproduct is what I was selling and hauling. Then I got into construction, kind of had a little bit of a construction background prior to, you know, back in college and before college. And then I partnered up with a friend. We did started a sort of a side business or a separate side of his business, doing railroad and environmental contracting. So knew nothing about that. Ended up going to UT for a 5-day training course on railroad track engineering to just learn how to build a railroad track. And just started selling in Chattanooga, mostly lucked up with a contract with Norfolk Southern, and just started targeting, you know, these, they call them industries, but anywhere they have a spur. And to me, that's where my little bit of technology helped, because I was super good at finding a contact. I didn't have Zoom info, but I could go to their website. I could find out what their email domain name is. I could look on LinkedIn. I could find out who the managers were that I needed to talk to. And I would just try all the combinations, you know, ADOT and AWOL and whatever, you know, until I would get somebody. And so landed the majority of the chemical companies on Amnicola Highway, which is predominantly the ones that have
there's a
rail
bunch
spurs.
of them. Yeah, wow.
Or a trick, if anybody's selling, you can go to their gates and they normally have emergency contacts listed because they're chemical companies. So you can just roll up to the gate and get phone numbers. But but then
I can't do that.
Yeah, so then you know, I decided to exit that, and KCH had been running some freight for me. We were doing some projects for CSX, and KCH just came in clutch. And so yeah, I joined KCH and helped out with Revenova integration. And then since then we've or migration, we've built a pretty robust tech team, and for our size, I would say we can stand toe to toe with the best.
Mm-hmm. I'm actually wearing my KCH shirt right now. KCH shirt, KCH's Cargo Club.
It's hard to beat.
Yeah, KCH has got great merch.
Swag.
And like, I mean, what's up, Reed?
Best swag.
Yeah, best swag. So, I mean, you have quite the story, Austin. You've been, I guess, like kind of in adjacent fields. You weren't really in logistics transportation, and then you get to KCH. Right now, you said they're like at a $300 million brokerage,
Mm-hmm.
which is like where would that be in like the top 100? Where is 300 million?
Probably 49th, 47th, I think, in the last.
47. Okay, so top 50. It's a top 50 brokerage, and so it's been growing, I think, quite rapidly, right?
Yeah, I mean, it tailed off a bit, you know, during the last 3 years, but we held strong. You know, we were able to make some changes. I think everybody had to make some changes, but we've held our own, and yeah, we're looking at pretty good growth this year. And it really you just got to stay focused, and you can't, in my opinion, you can't let the shiny new objects or the shiny new service offerings distract you from what you're doing. And you know, we tried to sell our way through the recession. You know, that was okay, but it wasn't the plan. You know, I don't think, you know, bringing on a ton of new logos while everybody's trying to do the same, it felt like a race to the bottom. So it was really about growing with the accounts you had. So I think a lot of people probably experienced that. I don't think I'm saying anything no one knows. You know, I think a lot of folks, they were going to sell their way through it.
There's been a lot of shiny new objects lately in
Absolutely.
the freight brokerage world. Like, and you as the buyer, as like probably the primary buyer of technology at KCH, have probably seen most of them. Like, how has that gone in the last 3 years?
Yeah, I think obviously I would imagine it was pretty tough for a while. Obviously, compliance was a home run. You know, if you were selling that, you're probably doing pretty good. But other things, I would imagine it got a little tough, and probably faced a lot more, you know, not really pushed back, but obviously there wasn't as much cash flowing through the bank account, if you will. I think now it really makes you think about the future, right? Like, how do we prepare for this next wave? And I think that's what something Amazon taught me well was you got to know how to scale up and down. And I think you've got to make sure that your contracts with your vendors reflect that, and that just because you're making money now and it maybe you're not getting the return you want on this product. I think it's, for us anyways, we're a little more critical about it now, because we're like, well, if it's not as valuable as we think, like, we probably need to just have conversations about the lack of value this product's providing us, and what do we need to do to make it better. It's not that we want to just kill it off, but and I tell a lot of vendors this, and they probably think I'm just blowing them off, but I'll tell them the timing is not right, because I've seen quite often where if our group, if our ops teams or whomever is going to be using the product, if they're not ready for it, it doesn't matter if you get in the door now or not. If they're not ready and they're not going to adopt, and it's not something that's really a pain point for them, the chance of a churn is huge. And once you churn and you've got a bunch of brokers that seen the first the first iteration of a product, and then it leaves, man, it's so hard to get it back. Like, to convince those folks to give it another chance. So I think a lot of times, when they probably hear me say time is not right, I'm being genuine, because I want to see the product succeed for both of us.
Mm-hmm. Austin, what's the Austin KCH tech stack for 2026 look like?
Yeah, I mean, obviously with everyone, I feel like AI is the topic. Yeah. So we've been diving into a lot of AI stuff, and we've used some of the vendors that everyone's probably using, but we've started tapping into open source models and hosting our own models. I think that the cost is going to creep up on folks, and obviously there's the subsidies that everyone's talking about and things like that. And for us, it's, in some cases, it's I keep it simple. I think of it as, would you rather have a jack of all trades or a master at one little thing? And that's sort of the approach, right? Is not trying to have this model that can do just an insane amount of stuff. I think that's where you get into a lot more hallucination and stuff, because it's trying to do such complex tasks. So really just breaking it down into smaller tasks, and then you have the luxury of just, how would you train a person to do that job, right? And it's broken down and it's more manageable, and you can use smaller models is what we found, and then so therefore your cost is less, and we found that we see less hallucination when you're trying to give it sort of more guardrails in terms of what role that agent is performing. So AI agents, capacity matching for sure, compliance. Compliance is huge, right? So I think compliance really is what's killed the majority of booking automations. I may be wrong about that, but that's the gate in which you've got to figure out how to get through to auto book with somebody. And so trying to figure that out, and that's, I would imagine, a lot of folks' challenges, unless they're just turning a blind eye to that and just letting it ride, which you shouldn't right now, really.
Will you name some companies, Austin? Like, could you tell us what KCH's tech stack looks like?
Yeah, sure. We've got it's probably pretty common to everyone. I mean, we're a Highway, Revenova. We are GenLogs. We're Trucker Tools, DAT, Sonar, Sola AI for RPAs, Bitfreighter for EDI and live quoting. It kind of feels like I'm winning an award. I'm going to leave somebody out. Right? But yeah, if I left anyone out, and then honestly, Snowflake and AWS is our core. So one thing that we've focused on is most folks, I would imagine, use their TMS as just their hub. Like, that's the center spoke. For us, it's AWS, and we wanted that because we wanted to be able to really build that data architecture in a way that allows us to get that data to whatever application we need it to, whatever BI analytics tools we're using. And I think that's been critical. And I was explaining this to somebody last week, and I try to keep things relatable. You got to think of data as a supply chain. And so what I mean by that is, if you're a manufacturer of fidget spinners, would you want all 10,000 fidget spinners you sold that day for somebody to come pick it up at your manufacturer facility, or would you send it through a distribution network? And so it's the same thing with data, right? So imagine if Revenova is our manufacturer of data. Like, would we want all 10,000 of these customers that need this data to go to Revenova, or would we send it to a distribution center in full truckload quantities, and then distribute it from there? And then you may have a distribution center and then a wholesaler or a distributor beyond that. So I like to think of it as supply chain in data, and I think that's where you end up with systems with huge latency problems. You end up with data that's scattered, or you end up
or it costs like $9 million to integrate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's the way I look at it. I try to keep it simple. I'm not a data architect, but I can understand it enough to say we shouldn't be calling this same object in Salesforce 17 times for 17 different things. Put that in one table and then get it from there, right? Do some pub sub stuff from there, whatever you need. So that's sort of the way that's an advantage, I think. And from the brokers and other leadership in the company, that's nothing they ever see. So when you ask for time to build out data architecture, and it's not something that they're not a tool they're going to get to use, it's like, it's kind of one of those things. It's like they don't see the value until they ask for a tool and we can build it really fast. Right? Like, that's the key.
When you talk to other brokers, I'm sure brokers all talk to each other about like what they're using, like especially with all these new AI vendors and stuff like that. Like, are you hearing other brokers who are saying, "Oh, we're hosting our own models, like we're buying server space and using open source models," or like?
No, I think what I hear the most is that right now AI is so cheap because it's subsidized, and I don't know where they're getting all those cheap tokens, because I know what a Claude.
Well, it's subsidized on probably two levels.
Yes.
It's subsidized. The models are the model providers are subsidizing it for the vertical AI companies, and then the vertical AI companies needing to sell their product quickly are subsidizing it further for the end user.
Yeah.
So it's like a double whammy, where when the jig's up, it's going to end up costing way more. One, because the vertical companies are going to need to actually make money, and two, and so are the model providers, right? And so it's and there's such demand for the tokens, like their costs are only they're probably gonna go up for a while. Yeah. So that's gonna be interesting to see the effects of that.
Yeah, I know for us, when we were first dabbling in it, we wanted to we wanted to categorize emails. We get somewhere in the neighborhood of 1.2 or 900 to 1.2 million emails a month. And we just wanted to categorize them, right? We're needing to answer some questions. And if you just go snag an OpenAI API and just run that through whatever, I mean, you're talking about burning $1,000 a day just to categorize emails, right? And that's where I think that sometimes AI gets thrown at stuff that just logic can be thrown at, like, and that's where I think out of all this, the folks that are going just hard, there will be this whole next wave of just optimization, because they're dumping so much into a model that it's like, you could have filtered that down a bit before you dumped it in. Did it really need to scan that entire document when you were only looking for one particular thing out of that document? Like that's just my thought. But that's going to create jobs. The whole thing about AI, pushing people or taking people's jobs, like, it's going to create so many. And I know that's what everybody wants to hear is anytime there's job loss, there needs to be job gain. But I really think that. I think there's going to be folks that are just focused on how do we manage the energy in which we're using now, because we've all went just hard on AI. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I'm wondering now, like, what are your thoughts on the whole ruling from last week with the Supreme Court ruling kind of against, I guess, freight brokers? What's your take on that?
Yeah, I think that it's obviously, the talk of the town right now, and anything government related, though, let's be real, it's going to take forever, right? I mean, not bashing our government. I don't want them to come to my house tonight, but I just think it'll take a while for anything to really firm come out of that. I think it's just a warning shot of like, hey, we probably need to do a little better, right? We probably need to make sure that we're using carriers. Do I think there'll be more billboards from lawyers on the interstate saying, call me if you're in a truck wreck? Absolutely. You know what I mean? There'll be a lot more of that stuff, I think. But, if I'm looking at in the future, like what are some things that we already experienced that'll probably could potentially happen is I put a lot of thought into like the state of Georgia. I think in the state of Georgia, there's only like 20 permanent scale weigh stations in the state. There's, according to Google, there's like 250 DOT officers in the state.
Mm-hmm.
The number I don't know is how many trucks drive through our state, but it's
a lot,
way more than those 250 guys and pull over and inspect in a day.
Yeah.
So what do we need to do, right? And where I think is if insurance gets involved, I think that's probably something that's going to come up. And think about, hey, if you've got Allstate, Progressive, whatever, and you've got this thing you plug into your truck or your car and it gives you safe driver rewards, safe driver for, to save you on your premiums and stuff. I envision if the insurance companies get involved, they're going to try to do something similar. And it may be easier because how many newer trucks have telematics data that they can tap into? And I think when it comes down to it, we'll probably see something like that. And but it's going to take connecting all this data. And that's what probably one of the biggest problems with what we have now from a government perspective. They've probably got majority of the data they need to take further action. It's just the data architecture. It's here, there. It's at the state level. It's at the federal level. It's in the system because it's this agency that handles the IRP and the registration of the license plates. And then you've got this other system that does the drivers CDLs. And then you've got another system for your state DOT number, and then your MC, your FMCSA operating authority. Like, it's just fragmented data. I think if you could just get that in one spot at first, like that could help us a lot. But the private sector will probably be faster at that, in my opinion. So, just be careful. Enforce your compliance policy. Is kind of what I think a lot of folks are doing.
What do you think? What about like driver vetting? Where does that even happen now?
Yeah, so we've just started that. So we've started using driver verification. We're sort of testing it, and there's a lot of challenges with it. But I expect, just think about our industry, right? Like if you go pick up a rental car and you've got or check into a hotel room, you've got a confirmation number, but guess what they're going to ask you for? They're going to ask you for your ID, right? How many shippers can you go to with just a simple number? Like that's been a thing forever.
Yeah.
You just show up with a
number,
and they're just going to load you.
Yeah, here you go, bro.
Some of them you just show up and say, hey, I'm picking up a load to Seattle. Boom, loaded, right? I think as a whole, like it's going to get to the point where you're almost going to need like your boarding pass, right? Or something, but to unify everyone is going to be super challenging.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, I do think driver verification now. Okay. Like I was talking to someone at a really big asset carrier last week. They're like, well, we're not going to let you as a brokerage. We're not going to let you gain access to our drivers. I'm like, well, at an asset carrier the size of yours, I would expect you to have already done that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if you're a 2-truck fleet, like, here's the link, go verify your driver. Right?
Yeah.
The feedback I've gotten from folks that have been doing it more than we have is that the good carriers love it because they're wanting the bad actors out just as much as we are. The other piece is the modes that are probably the shadiest. Like if you're going to run a box truck, load, and you're going to try to do driver verification, good luck. That's the feedback I've been given is like, it can be tough to get a verified box truck.
Yeah.
Reed, I have like a funny content idea of you taking the truck parking club truck that you have. Is it a Peterbilt? I forgot what it was. International.
Yeah.
And just like pulling up to like Shaw or some other like shippers and be like, yo, I'm here to pick up the load going to Cali.
Can't even get into the third gear. I'm gonna be rolling into the fucking. I'm gonna be redlining, rolling into the dog. They're gonna be like, "Who the hell is this guy?"
I swear, if it's just like you see those videos of people, they'll wear a safety vest and a clipboard.
Yeah, you can go anywhere.
It is pretty crazy out there, but this is genuine. And I don't know if anybody would want to do this, but I've thought about just for fun, trying to almost do like a pen test, just to see if we can, not at a show.
I'm going to roll up into my minivan and be like, yo, dude, I'm taking that load to Seattle. They're like, we don't have as a load to Seattle. I was like, oh, it's just Portland. And you just go down the list of cities until they're like, oh, we got that one.
But just like a compliance pen test, right? Just, I would like to do it to our company.
How is that not a service that there's some company that literally will be like white hat hacking your vetting process?
I think that there is going to be one soon.
Yeah. Okay.
That's interesting. I was actually thinking about, like, is there going to be a service that now goes and vets trucking companies? Like, since 94% of trucking companies aren't rated, will there be a company or companies that go and basically like do all like kind of the vetting and like actually understand the trucking company, like who they are, what they do, their safety scores, and then provide you with more information? Although I think that would be a little tricky. But
yeah, to what you were talking about with Ken, though, like there has to be a reward for it, right? Like you have to, by doing that, it should either gain you access to freight that you're not going to have access to, or premium rates in some form or fashion. I would think, because otherwise, like as a trucking company, like you got to be incentivized. I mean, to your capacity stuff you did. I mean, I'm sure that was challenging, to get trucking companies to
getting small trucking companies to do literally anything is very difficult.
Yeah. But I don't disagree. I think it's I think it's something that needs to happen. So maybe somebody will figure that one out for us.
Yeah.
There's some
Austin,
ideas.
Are you bullish for 2026 for freight brokers?
I think this year for us, it's just making sure we execute to the plan. I think it'll be a good year, but I'm hoping that 27, we start seeing all the
bullish for 27
our labor.
Well,
yeah, Ken's very bullish for 2027 too. Cool, Austin. Well, thanks for joining us today. We are at the time here. I'm sure we got to get more guests coming into the Truck Parking Club HQ. You're the first guest, Austin, to come by
in studio, dude.
Yeah.
What do you think of the studio?
Yeah, I like it. It's like from the house. So it was. I was actually at my kid's pre-K graduation, so it was closer to come here than the office. So
there we go, baby.
Yeah,
there we go. Good stuff.
Thanks, brother.
Absolutely, appreciate it.
See you, Paul.
And yep, see you guys.